This is the video coding assignment for 215. We're going to start with number 1. We are going to code the diagnosis of coronary artery disease. So we've got number 2 is your coronary artery disease. And then it is other unspecified. And it is unspecified. And then we do not wish to code. And there was no procedure. So we have our diagnosis code of I-25.10. We're going to add the next diagnosis of obesity. So we've got obesity, and it is morbid obesity. They're unspecified. We do not wish to code, no, and there was no procedure. So we have our diagnosis code of E66.01. Okay, for the next diagnosis, we've got the degenerative joint disease. So we've got our degenerative. I don't see it here, so we're going to need to spell out. There's our joint disease. It was multiple joints. Other unspecified. Do not wish to. No procedure. So we have our diagnosis code of M15.9. Okay, our next diagnosis is going to be the history of heart failure, congestive heart failure. So I'll put in our congestive it's of the heart. It's specified. Although do not wish to code. There was no procedure, so we have our code of I-50.9. So our next diagnosis is the atrial fibrillation. So we have our atrial fibrillation. This is unspecified. No, there was no procedure. So we have our diagnosis code of I-48.91. And then we have our history of myocardial infarction. So we'll do that one. It's going to be history of then we have our infarction right there. No procedure. So we have our diagnosis code of I-25.2. And if we move on to number 2, here we have the atactic gait. So I want to do that right. There we go. Gait. And it is other unspecified. And we have our code of R26.0. 0. And the next diagnosis is going to be the spondylosis. Okay. Without here, cervical, and new procedure. So then we have our code of M47.812. Okay, and then our last diagnosis of neuropathy. So we have our neuropathy, and then we have its other or unspecified, and we have our G code of G62.9. Okay, and then we go to the assessment on number 3. And hyperlipidemia is our first diagnosis we're going to code. So we've got and then we have our diagnosis code of E78.5. And then our coronary artery disease. So we're going to diagnose that. Coronary artery disease number 2. It's other unspecified. Then we have other unspecified. 3. Do not wish to code, and there was no procedure. So we have our code of I25.10. Okay, and then we have our cerebrovascular disease. Okay, it's our cerebrovascular disease. And then it is unspecified. No procedure. So we have our code of I67.9. And then it looks like we're dealing with some reflux. So, got reflux. It's esophageal. Unspecified. No. Do not wish to code. No. So we have our diagnosis code of K21.9. And lastly, some anxiety. So there's our anxiety with depression, and we do not wish to code. So we have our code of F41.8. Moving on to number 4. Looks like we're dealing with an anal tear with hemorrhoids. So we have a tear. An anal tear. Specified. What's initial, I would say. No procedure. So then we have our S31.831A. The diagnosis of the hemorrhoids. So you got hemorrhoids, and we've got unspecified, and no. So we have our K64.9. Moving on to number 5. We are dealing with some pain. It looks like some orbital pain and right hip pain. So we're going to go ahead and code the pain. And it is we're going to have to spell, it looks like. We've got ocular, and we know it's on the right. So there we have our H57.11. And for the hip pain, again, we have pain that we're dealing with. And it looks like we're going to need to spell again hip pain, which is unspecified. And it was the right hip. No. So then we have our M25.551 code. And for number 6, looks like we're dealing with some mononucleosis. So mononucleosis, unspecified, other, no. So we have our code of B27.90. And then for the pharyngitis, okay, B, unspecified, don't know. We have our J02.9. And then the last one looks like it's the otitis. And it is media, unspecified, bilateral, no procedure. So we have our H66.93. And then we're going to add our procedures. We had a consult, consultation. We are going to use the EM consult. Patient, it was for the 20 to 29 minutes. No, do not wish to code. And we have our 99242 procedure code. Okay, then we have the CBC procedure. And it was with the differential. No. And unspecified. So we have our 85025 code. And then our last procedure is our X-ray. And looks like we're going to need to spell sinus. Without contrast, with one or more. No. Okay, and then we have our procedure code of 70210. Okay. For number 7,